Welcome to our PRBI live session today. I'm your host, Tarunjit Ratan, and today we host a PRBI member, Duree Ross, the president and CEO of Durée Company from Fort Lauderdale, USA. Duree was probably one of the youngest people to launch a PR agency. She launched hers at the age of 24 in 1999 and has since been setting the bar for excellence in PR, serving the corporate, agency, and non-profit arenas for local, national, and international clients. And she is an award winning entrepreneur. She's been nationally recognized for her ability to manage crises, develop brand messages, protect and build brand reputations, and create content for digital platforms. She leads a 10 plus member team of PR and marketing professionals from various backgrounds. In her company, she fosters diversity and inclusion in every aspect of her business. And today, she will be sharing a lot of her insights into creating an agency of the future. Before we add her on, you must know that she is also the recipient of Reagan's 2020 Top Women in Communications Visionary Award. This award honors those making a significant impact in their day-to-day jobs and advancing the professional while accelerating growth for their own organizations. Her agency has been at the forefront of the change that this year has brought for us. Today, she speaks to us about crafting an agency of the future. So let's add her on. Hi, Duree.
Hi there. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. How are you doing?
All is great. Very busy, but certainly navigating the new normal and very busy. So very thankful for that.
All of us who are in business, we are grateful to be in business right now. But before we get started on today's subject, I want you to share with our viewers a little more about yourself and how you started your company at 24, is it?
Yes, at the ripe old age of 24. So it's, I was very lucky that I was able to start the business so young. And it really was a function of prior work that I had done in the space, in the PR space. And as a result of that, I had a number of contacts and former colleagues that I worked with, and they started reaching out to me and asked me to help them on some pretty significant projects for some big brands. And that's kind of how the company started. I had no business plan. I was on dial-up on the internet. I worked out of my bedroom in my mom's house because I had moved home after college. So definitely didn't have a plan, but it all kind of came together. And now we're almost 21 years later, we are incredibly busy. I have an amazing team that helps me all day long navigate all of the exciting things going on, navigating the crazy things going on like COVID-19 and all that comes along with it. And we're helping our clients every day really move the needle, and strategic public relations along with marketing and branding. And really our scope of work has changed dramatically, increased by client demand. So while we say we're a PR firm, we obviously do so much more. And certainly during this time, there's a lot of crisis work. So we're busy, and and I'm thankful to our clients that really do need us now more than ever. So it's a busy time.
Absolutely. So how do you differentiate yourself from others in the business?
There are a few ways that we differentiate ourselves, and I think that being true and authentic to our brand and being extremely branded in everything that we do. And I have Jenna on my team and several other team members that help us stay very true to our brand in the look and the feel and the design of it. When I first started, I was very young and I was afraid to have certain colors, corporate colors in our branding that would offend somebody. And I went very safe because I was afraid as a 24-year-old who was going to do business with me. And so we were very corporate. And then down the road, I realized, you know what? if somebody doesn't like our corporate colors, then they don't understand that we're branded and they're probably not the client for us. So then I felt more comfortable in not offending somebody. And if they were that offended, then they probably weren't going to understand what we do. And then they probably weren't going to be a fit for us. So we've absolutely evolved. We continue to evolve. And I think that's also part of staying relevant and current. And we're always looking to up the bar, so to speak, and to keep it real and keep it fresh. So we strive to do that every day for our own brand and for our clients. And I actually really enjoy it. And Jenna and my team, we enjoy it. And I think that's part of it, is that it's not one more thing. It's actually something we really enjoy doing. So I think just keeping at it, always raising the bar, and kind of having to continue to reinvent yourself on some level, or continue to expand services, especially when a client is requesting that you please, I need you to handle this for me. You do it. And even if it's a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Awesome. I'm assuming one of the benefits of starting at 24 was that you were unafraid.
It's true. I never could have imagined that this would have been. And so I look back and I think, oh my gosh, I don't think I knew what I was in for. And I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise, where if you knew, maybe you would be more afraid to do it. So I think I think that's kind of a blessing in this regard, where you really don't know what you're getting into.
Absolutely. So, in your take, there are a lot of agencies that start off being specialists in a particular niche, and there are others that go general, right? What's your take on generalist versus specialist?
Well, people think I'm crazy because I am quite a bit more of a generalist, or maybe I should say we have many specialty areas, and I've always kept it very, I don't want to say general, because that sounds kind of wrong, because we are experts in all of those industries. But I think being in this industry of PR and marketing for so many years, it's just, I've had so much experience. And for me, I think part of it was just, I didn't want to be stuck or pigeonholed into just 2 or 3 industries, because truthfully, it's boring for me. I like to have a challenge and figure out, how do we keep it real and fresh, and okay, this is our new challenge. How do we make this happen? So I didn't listen to any of my consultants over the years who said you really should be specializing in 2 or 3. And I can tell you that I could not be more thankful, given COVID and given what has gone on for so many of us, most of us all over the world, that certain industries obviously are impacted more and differently. And I feel really bad for a number of my colleagues around the world who are in 1 or 2 industries heavily, and those industries have been put on pause. And it really is concerning to me, and certainly I never like to hear that. But I do think it's been, the diversification for us has been, thank goodness. I'm really appreciative that we, hindsight is 2020. So it was just always my gut about being really diversified. And we do a lot of work in real estate, a lot of work in cannabis, professional services, nonprofit. We are pretty, we're pretty varied in the different industries, and it does help when there's an ebb and a flow, or the real estate industry may be having a bit of a downturn, or whatever it may be. Obviously now it's COVID, and that brought just a number of opportunities to a lot of different industries. And so hindsight in 2020, I couldn't be more thankful that I kind of just didn't take that advice. And there are industries that we work in heavily, but we don't come out and say we only work in these industries. I think it's too limiting for me personally and professionally, because I like the challenge. And the perfect example would have been 4 years ago when a real estate client came to me and said, do you know anything about cannabis and CBD, hemp? And, would you like to do PR in it? And I was very honest. And I said, I've never worked in the industry. I'm very transparent. And she said, well, I need you. Can you figure this out? And I said, I'm sure that I can. I'm going to need a little bit of a ramp up time, but I'm sure I can figure this out. And that took me into that industry 4 years, which in that particular industry is like dog years. And it's very much a startup mentality. It's very similar of the time when we had a lot of startups in the tech space, and things move incredibly fast, and laws all over the US and the world are now changing pretty much daily, and with export and import. And it's really a fascinating time. And so if I was only focused in certain industries, I would have had to say no to that. And it's been a very, very rewarding 4 years for us. Certainly within the US, a lot has changed. And in 2018, they passed the Farm Bill, making hemp, making CBD products, in most cases, federally legal. And that was an interesting, I was into it. I started into the space before that, but certainly navigating that and the misconceptions and having to educate clients even on it. And I was nervous getting into it. I thought, oh my gosh, what are my existing clients going to think? I actually didn't even tell people for a little bit because of the perceived misinformation. And I would get people saying, oh, great, so it gets you high. And it's like, no. So, to kind of circle back, I mean, obviously, to answer your question, I don't believe in specializing. I do think there are more areas that you can be deeper in, so to speak, that you have a lot more clients in it. And it is easier. Listen, it's easier to work with one journalist and get several clients in one story. But not all clients want that. They don't always want to be one of your 4 clients in the same story over and over again. So I think that's a delicate line too, where we do have to be careful as publicists that we are still very careful in our approach, and that it's not a one size fits all for the clients in all this one industry. It still has to be a very customized approach.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think the fun of agency life is that you get to do new things, you get to try out new industries, new verticals, and not get pigeonholed, like you mentioned, in one particular industry.
Definitely. It's what keeps me going. And especially in this crazy time right now in the middle of a pandemic, and constantly having to pivot and shift our strategies and opening and closing and all of that. So it's
Absolutely.
I think just being really diversified certainly has helped us, as certain industries are really challenged right now, and we don't know what's going to happen. And so I think just that diversification is really key. And so I more than ever am glad that we were and continue to be extremely diversified.
Okay, so let's come to 2020. How has this year been for you? And how has your agency specifically pivoted to manage the challenge?
So it's been completely crazy. I think that most people could agree with that in some form of the definition of crazy. Thankfully, we are the busiest we've ever been. In all honesty, I say that I've never worked so hard in my entire life, and we're on call more than ever. And I think that where we're at is that we have clients that have been with us for goodness gracious, more than a decade. And it's our job to represent them and make sure that they're okay, and to make sure that we're here for them. And it was always the news cycle. I felt always was 24/7. I don't know what the new term is. Maybe it's milliseconds at this point. I'm not really sure even what the new kind of classification is on that, but it is absolutely nights, weekends. Something pops up, it's definitely all hands on deck. So there's a lot of, oh goodness, this just popped up. We need to deal with that. So definitely putting out a lot of fires and helping our clients really navigate corporate communications, really, and what is the statement? What is our opening? Are we socially distant? Are we showing that we're socially distant? Are we telling how we're remaining socially distant and how we are protecting our guests, our consumers, our whatever it may be? And the other thing too is in the US during this time in the pandemic, many states actually, even states where cannabis in terms of marijuana is not even allowed. Many of those stores, for instance, Florida, it's not a recreational state. So you have to have, it's a medical, you have to have a medical, you have to go see a doctor and get a license and get approved, a medical card. But what's interesting is in the state of Florida, these companies were deemed essential. So you're actually dealing with an industry that's not really legal in a recreational sense, but yet they've been deemed essential and they're allowed to be open. So that just speaks volumes for what's going on. And it is different state by state within the US and, you know, on the marijuana side of cannabis. And, you know, hemp is federally legal throughout the US in most cases. So that's, I mean, if you think about that, that's so interesting where you have something that's not legal for all people, but yet it's now deemed essential and can be open, right? So there are a lot of those interesting types of situations. And what does that mean for those clients and those businesses that can stay open? How are they staying open? Or did they pivot and are they now at doing a great business in delivery? So there's just a lot of that. I'm using that within the kind of the cannabis space as an example. And then for a lot of our clients that have consumer packaged goods, my goodness, they have to go back to e-commerce. We have quite a few that were really big with retailers and retailers were shut down. So then it was kind of a pivot back to, okay, we're still supporting our retailers, but we need to go make sure that our e-commerce and make sure that we have a really big strategy there with e-commerce and consumer packaged goods. So there's been a lot of that kind of, okay, let's pivot a little bit more to this. We still have to do this, but we also need to do this. So I think it's really been trying to round out what the changes are and making sure that we're helping our clients navigate that. And then as clients are starting to open, if they were closed, then we're navigating that as well too. What does that look like? What does that put in place? And encouraging people to be patrons and to come and spend money there. So it's constantly shifting. And I think the news cycle also, it's just moving in milliseconds, and also really trying to explain to our clients that the days of saying no comment. I mean, I've always said no comment is a comment in what we do. But some clients thought, well, that's okay. I'm not going to comment. And we would talk through it. And if they chose not to, and I gave my kind of insight on that. And if they chose not to, that was fine. But now the problem is, if you don't comment, you have no narrative in that story. And the story that comes out has none of your perspective, none of your narrative. And it oftentimes really derails this entire situation. And I'm seeing that now more than ever, with a very short turnaround with media that will come and ask for a statement or a response. And you may have an hour or two to get back to the reporter. And it's, my goodness, you have to make sure that you get that email and that the client is available and that we can bang out a statement together. Because if not, the story that comes out is likely one that isn't correct from the client's perspective, because there is no narrative in there. And the media is moving quicker than they ever have. And once it's out there and it's incorrect, it usually gets regurgitated and reported by others consistently incorrectly. And you kind of like lost that opportunity. They're not going to write another story in most cases. So navigating that has definitely been difficult. And I think the clients have learned that you've got to at least get some of your perspective in these stories. Otherwise, it becomes a really difficult situation.
Absolutely. I think media, the speed with which they're churning on stories has definitely, accelerated during this pandemic. If I think there's a definition for warp speed in Star Trek terms, I think we would be the ones, the PR industry would be the one to define it, right? So, coming back to 2020, I think at the start of, 2019, end of 2019, at the start of 2020, we all predicted a lot of changes, a lot of trends that we would see so-called in 2020. I think since March, all of that has been thrown out of the window. But there have been some distinctive trends that have come out over the last 9 months. I want your perspective to be able to figure out from your part of the world, what are the distinctive trends that you have seen in the industry this year?
One big trend that has been kind of evolving is obviously with journalism and the lack of journalists. So obviously we've seen over the years that there are less and less journalists. Obviously print is dying. We know, we've seen it. Unfortunately, there's definitely a downturn with magazines, or many magazines are going all digital. So with that, there's less ad revenue, and therefore many outlets have now gone to basically what we call it from our end, it's called affiliate marketing. And basically what it means, for anybody who's not familiar with it, is if you get an e-blast from an outlet, you may see a line at the top or at the bottom that says, "We may receive a commission if you make a purchase." And
really?
Yes. And so you have to look, because sometimes it's buried, and it's become incredibly popular. And obviously that is a revenue generator for outlets, for media outlets. And it's also very much the model of influencers as well too, how they make their money that's kind of, you can be affiliate marketing directly with a publisher, and it's also an influencers, how they make money. And so by driving traffic via your link, they're able to make a percentage, a commission for any purchases that are made. That's really the concept of affiliate marketing. That's really what it means. So the publishers got really smart about it and realized they could make money, and that was another revenue stream for them. As their ad revenue was declining and continues to decline, they realized that that was a very valid method to make some money in a different way.
Interesting. So I understand how an influencer fits into this and how a publisher or a media house would fit into it. How does a PR professional fit into this entire equation?
So it's really interesting, because there are different folks who handle affiliate marketing. Now, I admit I'm completely biased, and I think that affiliate marketing should be driven by the PR firm. And I'll tell you why. I admit to my bias, but what's interesting is now that publishers are on it. So there's always blogs and couponing.com or whatever sites that will take your, that want the discount and will work with you. But with publishers, you have to have that relationship with them, and you have to really understand how publishers think. What makes a good story, because they're still packaging it as a story. And if you understand that they're going to be, for example, in the States, we have, we call them hashtag holidays, right? Every day is another holiday for something that's out there. And one of the days is National CBD Day, and it was in August, and it was something that we tapped into. And it's not that you have to go crazy on it, but we know that media is going to write these stories, and so we want our clients to be in these stories, and they're generally roundup stories such as top 8 CBD brands to try, or top gummies, or the top 10 CBD companies for your pet to try for pet products. And so in knowing and understanding how true media is going to look at it editorially to try to create that content, we pitch them. So we're still pitching them individually like we normally do with PR, but then we're also on these affiliate marketing sites that we're also managing and putting out there some special discount codes, putting out the information, putting out graphics about it. And so we're kind of pitching it both ways, if that makes any sense. So it's not just on the one site, but we're also individually pitching. And I will tell you, the reason that we got into it, we being Durée Company, is a couple of years ago, we started seeing, and especially really last holiday season, so about a year ago, a lot of the journalists that we work with for their holiday gift guides, top gifts for mom, top gifts for dad, top gifts for the stressed working mom, whatever it may be, for your pet. They started saying, in order to include you, we need to have a link, a commissionable link, either to Amazon, to a big box retailer, or be on an affiliate marketing program. And that really just shook us to the core, where we hadn't seen that they wouldn't include you if you didn't have that. And so we saw that last year. We've always been involved in it, but that really, and this year we're seeing it more than ever, even more than last year. We're obviously only in October, but we're obviously very busy pitching holiday gift guides now for the holidays. And so so that's why I'm biased. And I think that because we're working with media and we know their deadlines, right? So somebody else is managing it, they may not realize how far in advance some media is really working on these stories. And I think when it comes from the PR side, we just have that perspective of what journalists are looking for, what type of needs they have, how quick they need to respond. We individually pitch them and say, here's our holiday offerings, and we are on, we have an affiliate marketing program, and we have commissionable links, and we love, do you need samples in advance that need to get to them well before they're going to write up their story? So I'm really biased, as I've said several times. I do think it should rely on the PR, because it's a different perspective than maybe from somebody else managing it. And not to say that they can't do it as well, but it is, especially with the publishers, with the media publishers, that like the Hearst and the big guys. I mean, they're on it, they're using it. That's been a huge change. So we really work to kind of 1-2 punch, if you will, with individual pitching, and then also being on the site and making sure that we're really looking far enough ahead, and also prompting our clients far enough ahead that we need a coupon code. We need to have all of that in place so that we can pitch it far enough in advance. So we started talking to our clients back in July to make sure that we really had a strategy, that we were working with them on some very special products specifically for the holidays, for the upcoming holidays. And in not too short of time, we need to be on our calendar for New Year, New You, Valentine's Day here in the US. So we really have to keep a very, we just have to keep a very far out timeline, I guess is the best way to put it, and to keep our clients on track and be thinking about it when, truthfully, everybody is so busy, especially during COVID. Who can even think about Valentine's Day right now? But we're almost there.
So, I'm sure there were different rules that were applicable before COVID, and now post-COVID, things would have changed. So when in a brand life cycle is the right time for somebody to get into affiliate marketing? And let's say if there is a seasonal high, for example, Christmas or New Year or Valentine, how early should the brand get into affiliate marketing?
So obviously it needs to be a consumer packaged good. So we can't sell real estate on there, or it hasn't happened yet. Who knows what the future holds, but we're really looking at a CPG, a consumer packaged good. And certainly you need to have a significant online presence and a way for people to purchase your product. So there are some specifics in terms of requirements and, the type of website that you have, but it is integrated with like Shopify, for instance. So there are some widgets, there's some back end things that need to happen to make it work, but it is very doable. And I think the best time is you've got your product, you've got a good website, you have a good mechanism for capturing the sales. Certainly you need to have great product imagery. I mean, you need that anyway for PR, so that kind of goes hand in hand, but certainly need enough products and good marketing messages, but we would need that anyway on the PR side. So that's why it dovetails so nicely with PR, because what we would need to pitch is what needs to happen on there anyway to be able to properly capture those those sales. And so the thing I love about affiliate marketing that is so hard with public relations, it's so hard to draw the line between PR and sales. I can't ever promise really that I don't know how much traffic a story is really going to generate for a client. I just don't know. I don't think any of us know. And unless you're paying for it and you're getting a report, you really don't know. This is earned media. This is third party endorsement with what we do. This is not paid for, in traditional PR. And the great thing about affiliate marketing is you can see the sales, and you can that does become, not so much earned. It becomes, it becomes sales and legitimate. So I think the challenge with that though is you have to have a good product. It has to resonate. It has to look good. It has to be packaged correctly. And so those are the brands that do best and that are also creative and have that PR spin to it of, hey, does this product fit into this? Is the pitch, is it resonating? And is it positioned properly? So that's, again, why I think PR, it works so well with PR, because there's not that disjointed effort. It's very much part of how we would present it to a journalist individually pitching it. And it's very similar on the affiliate marketing side, that you need to package it that way too. So, and the other thing too is, I mean, for any clients that try to do this, it is a beast. So it can be done. I mean, you don't need to have a PR firm, but you need to have those assets and that press release and the pitching of it anyway. So it does kind of go hand in hand. It is doable. And listen, it's not like you just take everybody who wants to offer a discount. And it's also not about just discounting your product. So that's a very scary place. Once you start discounting, you don't want to be known as, oh, I'm going to wait for the discount. And you don't want to be that brand. So it has to be very careful and selective and just strategic in the efforts. And so it's not like anybody who wants it just gets it, because that can really cheapen the brand. And we have to be really careful that it makes sense.
It's always difficult to balance a sale and a discount and an exclusive offer, And so how soon should a brand get into affiliate marketing, especially if they want to reach a specific high point within the year?
As soon as they're ready to get sales, and they, in my opinion, have somebody helping them on that PR marketing side that can really drive that. There are some digital agencies that can manage affiliate marketing. That's definitely doable as well too. It kind of does, they're not going to understand that PR component of editorial calendars and kind of that aspect of it, but it absolutely can reside with a purely digital marketing company as well. And so I think that you have to be ready for fulfillment. I mean, there's a lot of back end that the clients have to be ready for. Do they have enough of that product? The last thing you want is, just like with PR, you don't want to drive traffic if you can't capitalize off of it. Then you're just going to upset people. So from a back end, we need to make sure that the client has the product, can fulfill in a timely fashion. How is the product coming? Certainly with COVID, delivery times are delayed. People understand that, you put a disclaimer in there, but you can't sit on a product for weeks on end and then try to send it out, and then it's delayed even further. So really want to take the opportunity to win that potential customer over and show them how great your service is, your product is, engage with them, and get them to be a fan, really, and get them to be a repeat customer. So to answer your question, I think you've got to have all of your back end ready, in addition to a pretty looking website. And it does take a little while to set up these accounts. It's not like, okay, you turn it on and then it just goes. There is quite a bit of a ramp up time, a couple of months to really get everything correctly. You've got to build out your store via the affiliate program. And it does take some time. So it can't just be turned on, let's say, in just a couple of days. So you really need to think through. I would give it a good 2 to 3 months to really be up and running, feel like you've built out kind of that store on the platform, and you need to make sure that your website is not having any sort of glitch or any issues in that respect.
Yeah, that's very essential. So, affiliate marketing is a very interesting skill set to add to an agency right now. Is that how you see the agency of the future? What, according to you, let's come to the subject then. What, according to you, the agency of the future?
I think it's a big component. I really do. I don't think it's only affiliate marketing. I like to say we have a toolbox, right? We have our toolbox, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger over my 20 years as the world keeps evolving. And that is one of our tools in the toolbox, but it's not relevant for every client. Again, you have to have a consumer packaged good. You can't do it with marijuana because it's highly regulated by state in the US. You can do it with CBD because it's federally legal, and that's a recent development just in the past year where they can be on affiliate marketing. So it's continuing to evolve, and I think that is a component of it. But I think in the bigger scope, really that corporate communication aspect is really where it's at. I think that our clients found during COVID that they needed us more than ever. And if there's there are some silver linings, I'm always trying to look at the glass being half full, and kind of what does that look like? I think that COVID put into motion even more that the agency of the future really is much, much more involved in statements, positioning, reopenings, and all of that, where we were always important, but I don't know that we were always considered vital. And I feel that now, I mean, to some clients, of course, it's vital, but I think more clients realize how vital our work is. For example, with social media, obviously you have to be very well versed in that. The agency of the future, it's all about content generation. And that to me is absolutely the future, whether it's helping with bylined articles, social media, marketing. I mean, creating that content. The PR creates the content that then we get to repackage to continue to show that our clients are experts in their field. But we're creating that content, however we're having to do it, whether it's an earned article that we secured, whether it's an article that they wrote that we helped them write and we secured to have them in that respect. So it's all about that content, and certainly affiliate marketing is part of that. And navigating crisis.
Right.
Every client has their own version of a crisis. It doesn't mean, thankfully, that it's
right.
Extreme crisis and people have to get hurt, thank God. But it is a crisis to that client and to their business. And it is critical. And I'm finding that our clients are checking with us a lot more before doing certain things, so that because they realize that there's an implication. If you do this now, it may mean way down the road, once you've said this, it impacts what you're doing. It impacts your strategy. And I'm finding more, it's like, hey, I was thinking about doing this. What do you think? And there's more of that now than ever, which is great. And there's just, I think, a little bit more appreciation for what we do, and realizing that one word can really take you down a bad path, and just helping to navigate the new normal. I think navigating the new normal, even with social media, and how to navigate things going on social media.
Absolutely.
People they're at home, they're commenting on things. And I mean, it could be something as easy as on social media posting an image, and people will immediately comment and say, that image, you're not social distance. They're not wearing masks. Why aren't they wearing masks? And even if you put sometimes in the caption, this was taken, prior to, they still comment. And even just navigating that, or navigating some real conversations that are being had. And those are things, you can't just go in and delete everything that you don't like, or that can also be a problem for clients. So it really is helping to navigate some really big issues, and some other issues that are little but could really become quite big. And so that's really the world that we're living in. And I think the agency of the future, it's a very personalized approach to communications. I really think that is our future, and all the components that go kind of within that, and all the different tools in our toolbox that we use to help the clients in that way.
I think we've gotten more tools, to fix the nuts and bolts of a communication program for that matter. I love the line that you said, we were always essential, but now it's become vital. Yeah.
Yes, and for that, certainly, I'm grateful. I know my team is grateful. We always kind of focus on our gratefuls every week, and over the course of this time, there were days I struggled to find what am I grateful for? And there were many times that it was like, I'm grateful to have a job. I'm grateful that our clients need us as much as they do. And there's been a lot of nights and weekends. I'm sure everybody feels that way. We're not different. There are a lot of times I just feel really bad for my colleagues, for my clients, and want to just really help it. And there's no doubt that this isn't going away tomorrow. I think we all know that. And so it's the agency of the future is really still to be defined. I think it continues to change. And I don't think I certainly couldn't have dreamt, a year ago what would have become over this last year. And so I'm kind of afraid to know what the future has in store for us. But I do think that PR has shown that they have a serious place at the table, and that things need to be run past PR before just moving on them. Whereas I think sometimes things would just go really quickly, and it's like, oh, by the way, and it's like, I think now it's kind of like, we were thinking about, what do you think? Are there any issues that you can think of? And so I think that I appreciate that. I know the clients like to have that other perspective, and just making sure that we are double checking ourselves, that if we're announcing this today, tomorrow it may mean this. Are you ready to say that? Let's step back a little bit and think about that strategy, not even just so much about today, about what that means in the future.
Absolutely. But it's a very interesting time for the entire PR industry. Like you said, the agency of the future is not yet defined, but it's a brilliant time for all of us to reinvent ourselves, innovate, and decide what the agency of the future is going to be like. So you spoke a lot about what PR professionals or PR experts might need to add in their skill set. Let's, step it up a little bit and talk about the PR entrepreneur, right? The agency heads, the agency owners. What, according to you, would be the skill set that they would need to survive in the near future?
I mean, you have to have grit at this point. I think this just, we don't know, like, from day to day, from minute to minute, hour to hour, like, really what is coming. And I think just being able to morph into what our clients need. And I think being flexible, yet being firm in situations where we have to oftentimes protect our clients from themselves, quite frankly. I think we just can't be yes people. And there's a way, obviously, to maybe have a client think about, well, have you thought about this option instead? And I think we need to, oftentimes, it's our job. We are paid to consult, to tell the client, hey, again, if you say this, it may lead to that. Are you prepared for it? And we oftentimes have to be the bad guy, and our clients need to be the good guy. And there are times that I say to the client, let me take this, let me be the bad guy. I want to protect you from this, or whatever it may be. And we have to take it. We have to make sure that we are buttoned up, we are available, and we are protecting our clients. And I think that we have to be, big girls and big boys, and be prepared to take it. And obviously, we also have to manage staff, and we have to navigate what that looks like, and we have to be a leader, and we have to be a leader sometimes when it's scary and it's tough. And I was just talking yesterday to somebody about what the month of April looked like, and how scared I was, and how I had to pull it together and be the leader of the, I had to be the captain of the ship, so to speak. And at one point, I wasn't sure if we had holes in the ship and it was sinking, but I had to be the leader. So, it's not easy. I can't imagine doing anything else, but I think we just have to make it happen, whatever that means. It really is being that person that is going to just make it happen, whatever happens. You're in charge, and having that grit and really just there's no choice. I think I mean, I just look at things like, what's my choice? There's no choice. Like, it just has to get done. It's not an option. I guess, I'm in too deep, or whatever the right, analogy is. And I think that as professionals, we just have to remain professional. We have to remain calm, even when it's not calm. Nothing in my life is calm. And we just have to steady the ship and make sure that we are navigating it as best as we can. And there may be holes at times in the ship, and we've got to figure out a way to kind of plug those holes. And I don't know if this is the right analogy, but I think we just have to just make it happen at the end of the day.
Okay. Very, very relevant advice. I think having a lot of grit and determination, just that will to succeed, the willpower to succeed has to kind of carry you forward. So I want to understand your biggest learnings in PR and your biggest learnings as an entrepreneur. Were they similar? Were they different? Or look at your career spanning for the last 15, 20 years and tell us about that.
So as it relates to PR, I've been in PR since I was 19. And the reality is that I don't know anything else. I don't know anything else in my professional life, because I've been in this space since I was in college. And I'm so grateful that I found it. It's not what I went to school for officially, but I stumbled upon it, and that was it for me. And so for me, I as a PR professional, I don't really have any other perspective other than just how it's evolved over the years. And certainly there are some key elements that I think are so critical, just as a PR person, not necessarily the PR owner, but just as a professional, with writing just being so important, especially now more than ever. Writing is just so critical to what we do. Proofing your work, picking up the phone, those are some of those basic elements that I think as just a PR professional are so important to what we do. And I also find that people they're longing for a personal connection. Media is longing there's so many conversations happening now that picking up the phone, and I see it even with clients that want to have that conversation, even though we're all so busy, it's nice to kind of connect. So I think right now, as a PR professional, that there's an opportunity to really kind of reconnect with people, reconnect with clients, with media. And it's everybody's having a tough time. And so I think there are some bonding opportunities there as a publicist, but reading and writing and certainly reading what you're pitching and understanding the program that you're pitching, making sure that you've watched it before you get into that. I think that's always been relevant. I was kind of brought up that way, to read what you're going to pitch or watch what you're going to pitch before you just pitch it, to make sure that it's not off brand or off topic and it's not irrelevant. And I think that's more important than ever. I think that's always been around in my entire career. So as like the PR professional perspective, I think now is a great time for individuals to look at taking an extra course or reading that book, or trying to see what else they can do to kind of learn a new opportunity, or learn or get certified in something that maybe you didn't have time for before, and maybe become an expert in that, or get Google AdWords and get certified by Google, or all of that is really important. And I love to see folks that kind of maybe have their own blog or just started their own blog. It's something they've always wanted to do. So I think that is always really indicative to me of somebody who wants to continue to improve themselves. And I'm very much that way. I don't have as much time as I would like, but I think that's part of of kind of going into the PR owner side. I think never just accepting where you're at. I think you always have to kind of reinvent yourself, raise the bar, make sure that your company and your team is on board to help you continue to kind of grow and evolve. Because otherwise, my goodness, if all I did was traditional PR from when I first started, I would probably be out of business, because it's so much more than that. It's still important. I mean, obviously earned media is critically important, but it's also taking that content that we've created, and repackaging it and e-communication and social media and blogs and SEO and why you need a blog strategy that then helps with an organic SEO strategy, and you really have to understand all of that for the bigger picture. So again, all those tools in our toolbox. And more on the PR owner side, I think I'll be honest with you, the reason I went into PR and kind of communications is I wasn't good in science and math, right? And I didn't love it, and I could do it and whatever. But now as a business owner, whether you're a PR owner or an owner of any business, you have to deal with numbers. And so, there's I have like a day job and a night job, right? So my day job is in PR, and it's the PR component, right? PR marketing kind of all under umbrella. But then I always say my night job or my weekend job is the running of the business. There's so much that goes into payroll and insurance and all of that stuff that is so important, kind of HR and all of that is so important, but it's another job. And so it's kind of like, it's a lot. And I'm lucky. I have some great help. Jenna in my office, my VP of operations is incredible. I have a fabulous team. I'm so proud of the work that we've put out, just even, especially during the pandemic. It has been insane, and I thank them. I don't know if they're watching. I hope that they are, but I could not do this alone. And when you ask me about being a PR owner, I could not do, and I could not do it at the level that I do it without a great team. And I think I often am the one speaking and getting the kind of notoriety, and it takes a team. Without them, I would be nothing. And at this level, with the amount of accounts that we have, it does take a team effort. And we look at each account that we work on is a group team that works on it. And therefore, we're not delayed because somebody's on vacation or somebody may be out sick. It still moves forward. And I think that is so important right now with things changing by the second, that we have to make sure that it continues to move no matter who may be out of the office. And so as a PR owner, that's been really important to kind of make sure that when I kind of shifted over to that model about 7 years ago, when we really, we have our office space and we really have a lot of team members, that we are really continuing to prove our worth every single month. I tell clients this, I believe it in my heart and in my soul, that every month I feel we have to justify our existence. And that is how I look at it, because if not, if you're working with a client for a decade, it's very easy to get comfortable. And I don't want to be comfortable. I always want to do better and to outpace what we did the year before. So I think that's kind of my inner drive, and my challenge is to make sure that we're continually helping the client reinvent, to continue to help them move the needle in whatever aspect it may be for their industry and, for their business.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing that, even after being in the business for 20 years, you still look at raising the bar, not just every year, but every month. So let's come to PRBI. You've been a member for quite some time now. How has the membership helped you grow as an organization?
So I was trying to remember, I think it's about 5 years now, and PRBI is just incredible. They have been so helpful, all of the members. I'm actually part of the membership. I'm actually chair of the membership committee. So if anybody is watching and they would like to be a member, I'm your contact, please. We do have some very specific requirements, and we are particular about those requirements, but we are always looking, and we have such a varied mix. It's been great to get to know you and actually work with you to help bring you on when you joined. And what I love about the group is it's a safe and fair and reasonable place to be able to work, to ask questions that you maybe wouldn't ask you wouldn't ask a competitor. It's a very the way that people can weigh in on vendors, HR issues, I should say HR opportunities, new business proposals, just a really safe place to ask for that type of information and to be able to refer business, to be able to go in on business together. And there have been many times that I've had new business reach out to me and the person has said, can you also work in this either industry or this country? And would you be able to help us with that? And I mean, in every proposal that we do, we always include information about PRBI. It is such a value. I mean, for the membership, I would pay it 20 times over just because it has been so valuable to be able to share ideas, brainstorm. And I mean, I think it's fantastic. And I'm so honored to be a part of it, truly, that I can't recommend it enough. And you know, we have daily communication back and forth. We are very open about what's working, what's not. If somebody's having a crisis with a client, we know that it's a safe place to be able to ask questions and to bounce things off of each other. So I appreciate that. And it's really helped me navigate some tough times, and it continues to do so. So I'm very thankful to have met you and so many other people during my time in being with PRBI. But I can't rave about it enough because it's a really special group of individuals that are the greater good, and and we really do want to help each other out. And I think that's pretty unique around the world.
Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for that. I think our entire PRBI network would be delighted to hear this. That brings me to the last question. What is it that keeps you motivated every day, to keep coming back to this job?
I think it's kind of like what I said earlier, that there's no choice. It's just, you have to just keep going. So I think it's just an internal desire that I've always had, that if I'm going to do something, and my dad even, if you're going to do it well, or don't do it at all. I think that's kind of what I was always raised with. And so I just don't really feel like it's an option not to. And so I think when you look at it that way, it's just like not an option. So and I love what I do. So it's not hard. I mean, I'm tired. I'm not going to lie. The last 7 months have been emotionally draining, right? And and so many of our friends and colleagues have been in a tough, family members have been in a tough, we have family members that have been battling COVID, and it's not easy. I mean, in no way is it like any part of this a walk in the park. Even before COVID, it's really tough. But I think that I really enjoy what I do, and I enjoy our clients. I really do, and so it doesn't. I think my challenge is I don't have an off switch. So I think that's actually my challenge is that I need to sometimes, take a little bit of a break. But when you love what you do, it's so hard to kind of differentiate. And it's interesting because so many of our clients end up becoming really good friends. It's not that they started out that way, but we work so closely and for so long that they really do become people that we enjoy. And so I'm grateful for that. And I think that's also part of what keeps me going. And the other thing too, is I have a fiduciary responsibility to keep the lights on and to keep the payroll coming. And I'm very grateful that during COVID, we actually added a number of new positions to the.
That's brilliant.
So yes. And again, I think that goes back to the clients have needed more work, expanded work, needed us more than ever, have referred us to other people that have also needed it. So I think that's all part of kind of that we experienced. But I do realize that not everybody is in that position. And I have brought on folks that were laid off. And, there are several people that ended up that I now have that are fantastic on my team that were laid off. And I don't take that lightly, and I don't want it to come out as, oh, we're so great and we're so busy. It's not easy. It is not, there have been tears on my end, but it is my job to keep the lights on. And I take it very seriously that there are people that are my team members that are dependent on their payroll and making sure that comes through. And so I think that also keeps me going. I have that responsibility to my team members to make sure that they're getting paid and that I'm keeping the lights on and that we're doing the best work we can. So I think all of that coupled together, kind of, it's not an option. Failure is not an option. So I think that it's in that, I guess, perspective that it just keeps me keeps me going and keeps me fulfilled. And I'm tired. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm tired. I take a couple of days off, and I'm working towards that. But I realize that this is obviously a very, just a very, crazy situation that we're all living in this world, and we're all trying to do our best in navigating it. And so we're all just trying to do our best. But I really think that perspective that I shared with you is what just keeps it real. It keeps it going.
No, that's a very responsible way of looking at it, And thank you for sharing that with us. So that brings us to the end of our chat session today. We've actually overshot the time that we had allotted for this. But thank you so much, Duree, for sharing your insights on PR with us. Really appreciate the time you've taken out to speak to us today and helping us understand in depth about what makes the entrepreneur of the future and the agency of the future as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks to PRBI for all that they've done and really helping us get to each other. And thank you for doing this. We appreciate it. I'm speaking on behalf of all of PRBI. Thank you for doing this. This is a big commitment, and we really appreciate it. And I'm excited to have participated for the first time. So thank you.
Most welcome. I love doing this. Yeah, thank you. So that was our PRBI member, Duree Ross, CEO and President of Durée Company, speaking to us about crafting an agency of the future. So if you were listening very, very carefully, you would have picked up a lot of interesting nuggets that you can take back with you. Thank you again for joining us today for this session. We will see you again at our next live session with another interesting conversation from a seasoned PR professional from the PRBI network. So stay tuned.